Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. It's Tom LeNoble, and I'm really, really happy to be with you again. And I have the biggest treat for you today. I've been waiting for this for a long time to share one of my favorite people with you. Patty Aubrey is with me today, and Patty is a 14-time New York Times bestseller. Patty Aubrey Consulting. She's an executive coach, and there's so much more that I can't even tell you. And full disclosure, I've been working with Patty for about a year and a half. And this is somebody that if you really, really need to get clear and move ahead and be held accountable, Patty's your person. Patty, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Tom.
It's good to see you always. So I want to dig right in. I want to start from the beginning, and I want to know what sparked your idea to even begin Patty Aubrey Consulting.
To get out of what I was doing. In the beginning, it was kind of a side hustle, to be honest. I was president of the Canfield Training Group and was managing that and had been managing that for 30 plus years. So I just thought, I kind of want to do something other than what I'm doing on that level. And I really want to empower more people to give them permission to show up, speak up, and be seen. And that brand was really under that permission granted brand was really under Patty Aubrey and not under the Canfield side where I was president. So I came up with Patty Aubrey Consulting. Not very creative, actually.
Yeah. Did you have a moment on the journey after you started it where you said to yourself, "Yeah, this is it. I know this is the path I'm supposed to be on."
I think so. I mean, I think I had been on the path for a long time and just not acknowledged it. So by the time I finally owned it, I should have owned it a long time earlier. So by the time that I did that, I was sort of like, okay, this is kind of old news. Had I done it in the beginning when I should have done it, it would have been scary. It would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm finally doing it. So I kind of did it under the radar a little bit, which is sort of the chicken way to do it. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend that. It's like declare it in the moment. Um, but it definitely was a defining moment of I'm doing this. It's been about 8 years.
Wow. So tell me this. When you look at yourself today, how are you fundamentally different from when you started it?
Well, I'm not 25. Fundamentally different from when I started Patty Aubrey Consulting or
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
I would say that I'm a lot more grounded. I'm a lot more clear about who I am today. I just turned 61, and it's been about 8 years, I think, that I started. About 8 years, I started Patty Aubrey Consulting. I still was kind of figuring out who I really am and what I'm really going to be up to in this sort of third act, which is, I think, difficult for a lot of people. Maybe more so for women than men. I don't know, but I call it my grown-up era, if that makes any sense.
Finally growing up, huh?
Yeah.
So, I found on talking with people here, and I know it's true for me, if I look back to really, really early life, there was somebody involved that planted seeds, that did something, role model something that created the path that we are on in this journey. Who was that for Patty?
I think I had a couple of those. My dad was a big executive and started a brand in the vitamin industry that everybody would know today. And so when I was growing up, I worked for him, but he never let me work for him. I had to work for the vice president of operations or the vice president of marketing or human resources. I could never work on any part of the sales side because that was his domain. Thank God he didn't allow that. So I really had mentors I mean, it's Nature Made Vitamins, honestly, which is a household name. So the CEO and founder of that is a big mentor for me. The senior vice president of operations, who's now like the vice chairman of Herbalife, um, and a couple other people like that really taught me my work ethic. And it was tough because in those days it was old school. I mean, you never came to work if you didn't have your suit on and your nylons. And, there was a lot of rules back then. So that was kind of my upbringing and my dad. And I was the only child out of my family. There's four of us that actually worked for my dad. And so
Huh?
it was I was sort of that chosen one. I was the oldest girl. My brother was very off the wall ADD. So I was kind of the oldest at some level, even though I wasn't. And so he brought me in to do that. And I just knew intuitively, like, I'm going to be in business. I'm going to make a lot of money. And, I don't make dinner, I make reservations kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just was kind of born that way. And so my parents would say, are you sure that you're like part of this family? So that was that. And then growing up and then getting into this world of transformation, self-help, I would have to give credit to Jack Canfield for that because he was the first person I met really in the field that I started to work with, even though at the time I really didn't care about personal growth or self-help or anything else. I wanted to build a business and make money doing it. And he always said, I just want to make a difference. And I said, great, I just want to make money. Together we'll be better.
I
And of
love
course,
it.
it morphed over time and I became a little bit more transformational, a little bit deeper. But in the beginning, it was pretty much that.
So, president of the Jack Canfield Group, Patty Aubrey Consulting, executive coach, all of these things that you've accomplished, bestseller multi times. What values have guided you from the start?
Oh gosh, I mean, loyalty is huge for me, honesty, transparency, passion, things like that really have been my thing. My dad always said to me, it's not always who you know, or it's not always what you know. Sometimes it's lots of times it's who you know, and never burn a bridge. Um, so it's like always be loyal, always go the extra mile, always look out for other people. And so that was sort of just ingrained in me, and that's kind of how I roll, I guess I would say.
Where did life ask you to slow down recently? And what did you hear?
Oh, Lord. Okay, Molly Rose was white. Gets a little deep. Where did life ask me to slow down? Oh, it's asked me to slow down a couple times, but recently, I would say in the last 2 years, I was going fast and hard. Things were not going well. I was getting to that 60 mark and I was drinking too much. And that was just kind of a signal like, hey, dial it back, stop doing things that aren't going to support the rest of your life. And so I think getting sober was a really big change in my life and just like really slowing down and getting regrounded to, and I think that too, Tom, was part of like this adulthood thing. It's interesting. I was reading something the other day. Somebody said, nobody tells you the one thing about sobriety that nobody tells you, time goes by really, really fast when you're sober. It's like, that's so weird. I've never heard that. You would think it'd be the opposite, but it's true.
Wow.
And so I'm a firm believer you have to slow down to go faster. It's really difficult to, put gasoline in a plane in the air. I mean, some people do it if you're, in the Air Force, but otherwise not so good. And so I think I really needed to kind of slow down and really gas up in a way that was going to support my mental health in the future and to be the best version of me going into this next few decades of my life.
Wow. Some wisdom here today. Thank you, Patty. How has your relationship with risk changed as you've moved through these different stages of your life and your career?
That's a good question too. You could have sent me these ahead of time. Okay, so my relation to risk, I think it's it's different today than I don't know if it's different. I never I never worried about risk. I always saw the glass pretty much half full. Um, but I also always surrounded myself with very strong people, one of my mottos is like kind of be the weakest link in the chain if possible. So surround yourself with brilliant people that are strong in areas that you're weak. So I didn't really have much of a risk fear at all because I felt like we always had a plan. Um, and with that said, I also was sharing my checkbook with Jack Canfield, or when I was president of Chicken Soup Thistle Enterprises, we had a board, and so there was more weight in there. So as much as I felt like it was my responsibility, it wasn't all mine. When I started Patty Aubrey Consulting, that then I noticed like, I'm a little bit more risk adverse than I used to be. What's going on here? And what I realized was that not having to take full ownership and always having really strong partners was really a huge asset for me. And doing things alone can feel a little bit more like a liability. And with that said, recognizing it and going, oh, okay, well, this will just bring up a fear, and a fear will bring me back to a time when I was young. And then I'll make some ridiculous decision based on that time frame, that decade of my life, when I can really say, hold on, take a breath. This looks scary. What's the worst thing that can happen? Usually it's nothing too bad. At the worst time of my life, when I thought I was going to lose everything and it was like everything was going to hell in a handbasket. My husband was really ill. I had real estate I had no business owning, and the market crashed, and it was like crazy days. I remember that moment and saying, oh my God, what's going to happen? I thought, well, the worst case, I just lose it all and I can stop worrying. And
Interesting.
and then I felt really free when I thought, okay, so I just lose it, but I'm still here. I'm still alive. I know how I got it. I can get it again. So I don't spend a lot of time there because I do believe that you get what you focus on. And so my job is to always look at, how can I win? How can we all win? How can we all serve? And how do we do it in a way that there's not too much liability? And there's always a way to do that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my long answer to your short question.
No, I like that answer. How does Patty decide when to pivot or push through?
I decide to pivot when I am noticing that I'm really disengaged, and I'm disengaged out of total boredom. I know to push through when I'm disengaged because I'm procrastinating out of fear of the unknown, or maybe not feeling very confident about whatever I'm about to do, but know that if I push through and get to the other side, I can go, oh yeah, I know that feeling over there. I've been there before. So just got to take that next little leap. And that's how I decide.
I love that. So tell me this. You know, I don't know about you, but I've made some big mistakes in my career. And what I found is sometimes those big mistakes turn out and lead to some of my biggest success. Have you ever had a mistake that turned into a big success for you?
I think, I think, I think everything has whenever there's always some like silver lining in everything that feels like a disaster at the time. Um, I will say, when I was developing things on Maui in my real estate mogul days, which was ridiculous, um, I literally had a house on the market for $20 million, and it was 2012, and people weren't buying $20 million homes. And I brought a psychic in, and she said, this house that you've built is here to teach you a lesson. And I said, well, what is it? Tell me, hurry,
Tell me now.
before I go completely bankrupt. And she said, this is supposed to be a place where people learn things. So you're here to teach. Your lesson here is to embrace your teacher, your inner teacher. I was like, wait a second, can't somebody else that I know that does this better than me teach, and I'll just do like, no. This house will literally strangle you to death until you like step into this next version of who you're supposed to become. And so I went, crap. And I went back to the drawing board and said, okay, I'm going to create a luxury retreat, and I'll invite 24 people, and we'll charge more money than we've ever charged before. And I will, create enough money to be able to float this crazy overhead that I have for a year at a time based on each time I do one of these. Like I do 3 a year and I'm good. And I was scared to death. I mean, literally, Tom, I was scared to death. I went back to my team and said, we're going to do these retreats. And they all said, you're crazy. We've never charged that. We can't do it. And I said, so I don't know why I just didn't fire everybody right then, but I didn't because I was so insecure because it was the first time ever that I was doing something because I really needed to financially. And it was about me. Even though this went on to do, I did, and it was a luxury retreat called Meet Me in Maui with Jack and Patty. It turned out that we did 32 of those over the years, and they were like 15,000 per person. We did, 24 people at a time. It turned out to be a great venture that we did all over the world. And it was fabulous. But in the beginning, it was a total disaster. I was coming up with a plan to fix the disaster called real estate, which then I had to embrace being a teacher. The first event, I probably said 5 words. Now, if I was sitting there with Jack, he'd say, now we can't shut her up. And yeah, so that was forcing me into this next level of becoming a speaker. And, I was always coaching. I was always strategic business planning. I was always helping people, but Jack Canfield or Mark Victor Hansen or whoever I was working with was the face. And I was always kind of the wizard, like behind the curtain. So having to show up and own it and be in front and take credit for it and then talk about why it's important that you come to see me, it was like next level, like self-esteem exercise, like, well, I'm not really that good. And, it was crazy. So it was
Who
painful.
me, right? Who
Yeah, yeah,
me?
yeah. I mean, I did my own website. It was so god awful. If I ever went back to Time Machine and looked at it, I'd be like, are you kidding me? But it worked, and my whole team loved going to Maui. We made it our like home base for these retreats, and then of course, once it really started working a few years later, it sold because the flow was there. Everything was meant to be what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it had served its purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It had served its purpose. How do you move through burnout or deep uncertainty? What do you do to manage that?
I talk about it a lot. I call people. I have sounding boards that I just talk it out and talk it out and talk it out until I figure it out. Um, and mostly burnout for me isn't really burnout. It's me not being honest with myself about what's working, what's not working. It's about something that needs to shift in the way I'm delivering something or the way the deal's done, whatever it is. Like there's just something that needs a tweak. And growing up in a very Catholic family with a alcoholic father, it's very easy to be codependent and put everybody else's needs in front of your own. But when you're running a business, that can cause a lot of drama and trauma. And so that was definitely something I had to look at whenever I felt burned out. I'm like, is this me just not being honest and telling the truth faster about what's working, what's not working for me? And not
Uh,
based, and it's not personal, but it's personal for me. I mean, it's even silly stuff, just recently I was coming over to see you in Hawaii and I had a dog sitter and I had all these contractors that were coming. I'm like, oh, great. And I have a Belgian Malinois. So she's a nut. And if she gets out, I don't know what will happen. And so the dog sitter that I had really wasn't the best person for the job at the time because she's not there all day. She goes to work. And so I was like, I need to have somebody that can be here all day long. And I felt so bad. And I almost sacrificed my sanity and went to Hawaii and just was going to let her come and I was going to worry about it. And I would say like, no, this is not personal. Granted, it was last minute. I still paid her, but I still agonized over having to tell her, hey, you know what? This isn't going to work for me. But it's what I needed to do. I mean, I have to honor myself. I'm going on vacation, you know?
yeah,
And so I had somebody else come in. I had to pay twice, but I did it. And so little things like that sometimes can be really difficult for me when I want to be the nice guy and want to be great for everybody. But that's just a
yeah,
silly little example. But those little things can be bigger things when we're not at least aware of them. And I always say with awareness comes choice. As Lisa Nichols would
yes.
say, once you know, you can't not know.
That's true. In fact, if you don't, they seem to collect and attract other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm interested to know, what are you most proud of? Not publicly, not professionally, but personally.
I think having amazing children, I have two boys that are just, they're great humans. They're upstanding citizens. They do good things for people. And, my older son just had a child and he's got a amazing wife and he's a great father, but just being able to raise humans and my nephew that I also played a big part in raising, who was addicted to drugs and is sober and now he's a captain of a fire department, which is like, that's probably my most proud thing ever, is
Wow.
watching him turn into such an amazing human after such struggles and making myself available enough to be there for him when he really needed it. Yeah, those are probably the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah, and I think you're a new grandma, right?
I'm a new grandma. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Or grandma maybe is right better for you, right?
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me this. Have you ever said no to growth because it wasn't aligned?
Yes, yes, I have. Um, well, I mean, no to growth that wasn't aligned. So no to an opportunity or to my own growth.
Yeah, I think when business came to you and it just wasn't aligned, did you say no to it or compromise and move forward?
Uh, no. I maybe have compromised once or twice on real small things, but no, because uh, it takes a whole lot to get out of bed in the morning. And if I am not 1,000% in it, if I am not excited about it, if it's not part of what I'm passionate about, it is not going to work. So, no. And people have tried to bribe me and, I'll give you this and I'll pay you that. I'm like, can't do it. Just, it would,
Yeah.
I would regret it from the minute I said yes.
Yeah. My integrity for me is more important, and that I can lay down my head at night and go to sleep and not know that I stepped someplace where I didn't want to. So, what boundary has become essential to your sustainability?
Um, I think just, being really honest about what's not working. If something's not working, just saying, I love that, but that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of things that used to work for me just don't really work for me anymore. You know, I'm, I feel like time is so precious and I don't want to spend it with, on anything that I don't absolutely want to do. And I think too, everything's changed. I mean, just even becoming a grandmother, like everybody said, oh, it's going to be amazing. I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I was like kind of, when my kids were little, I mean, I was working my butt off. And I've probably spent more time with my grandson in 5 months than I spent with either one of my
Wow.
boys in the first 2 years. Not because I just dumped him anywhere. I mean, we had a great nanny who's still part of our life, and she's been around for 30 something years. But yeah, I mean, Chicken Soup for the Soul was going off the minute I got pregnant, crazy as it was, and so I made some choices that I get to do over this time around. And so I'm really choosing being present and just being really 1,000% available right now for my
Yeah.
grandson.
Love this. Love this. So tell me, what's the boldest vision of what's coming?
This 3-acre parcel out here in Santa Barbara needs some guest houses on it for all the kids. Oh gosh. I don't know. I kind of want to do a podcast. Um, I'm really kind of playing with that. Um, I'm also looking at the possibility of doing a deal with someone to create a bigger publishing company opportunity. I'm always looking at like, what do I know people need and what do I feel like is missing right now? And how can I support that? So I get a little obsessed with things that I feel like could be done better, or I could help support. So I'm kind of playing with a couple friends. I'm like, we're all doing different pieces of this bigger puzzle. And if we just put our heads together and stay in our lanes, could this even be more cool and more fun? And so that's kind of what I'm toying with right now. So it'll
Oof,
definitely be around publishing because I really
love
feel
this.
like publishing. A lot of people are offering like being a book or how to publish a book, and it's not the way I would do it. So stay tuned
I
for
like it. Stay tuned, everyone. This is now I have to stay tuned too. So tell me, Patty, what does renewal look like for you beyond just rest and time off? What do you do to renew, Patty Aubrey?
um self-care is big for me, exercise, meditation. But really, I mean, I love to be outside in nature, but I also love to be in my art studio, painting. So it's just, I think it's being open enough and being present enough to notice what's calling you in the moment and being able to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, great wisdom there. Yeah. What does legacy mean to you at this time of life?
I hope I've already created it and it's done. I don't know. Um, legacy to me is like, how do you want people to remember you? Like, what kind of mark have you left on the people that you've touched and the environments that you've been in, and 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 what have you not done that you still want to do that will add value to the planet and the world before you leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been on this journey, unbelievable journey, bestseller, Jack Canfield Academy, Patty Aubrey. There's stuff that we haven't even talked about that we probably have to do a part two over. Um, what have you learned about trust?
Hmm. It's everything. It's everything. And without trust, there's no safety, there's no community, there's no company, there's no product. It's very difficult to build and sustain anything without trust. And I think it's the most important thing on the planet. And, it's really important to me. And if I don't trust you, you're not going to be very close to anywhere that I live.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
paranoid. Life is too short to not have that circle of trust and to know that you can be trusted by others. It's huge.
and much, much too hard to rebuild when it's gone, for
Mhm.
sure. Really, really takes so much, and I'm not sure that I don't know, it always feels like there's that element of the unknown once it's been broken. So tell me this, Patty, if a much younger Patty were watching this podcast, what would you tell her?
Run for president. Hurry before you do anything wrong. Oh God, I would say make a list of everything you ever want to do in your life and get doing it, and just don't stop and don't wait and you're never ready. Taking action is what gets us ready. And make sure you have the right people around you to support you in going where you want to go. And you're allowed to have dreams. So enroll others and make it happen.
Yes, and you certainly help others with their dreams. If your story could leave my listeners with one invitation, what would it be?
Give yourself permission to show up and speak up and be seen now.
Love that. Where can we find you, Patty?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or at my website, pattyaubrey.com, and PattyAubery.com.
Patty, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. I cherish our friendship, and I love and really, really care for the wisdom you've shared with others today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. Back at you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to my viewers, this is Tom LeNoble, and I'll see you next time.